Before history carved wounds into the world, there were two sisters living beneath the same French sky, yet walking through life as if they belonged to different seasons. Vianne, the elder, moved like spring, gentle, soft-spoken, hopeful even when fear whispered at her door. Isabel, the younger, burned like late summer, restless winds, bright fire, never meant to stay quiet for long. Carriveau, their hometown, sat peacefully among orchards and cobblestone streets, unaware that war was nearing like a distant storm rolling across the fields. Vianne's life was simple and tender. She taught school, tended her garden, and kissed her daughter Sophie goodnight with the ease of someone who believed life would bend toward safety. Her husband, Antoine, steadied her world, returning home each evening smelling of earth and hard work. But peace can be a fragile thing, a glass bowl the world can shatter without warning. When the radio crackled one warm evening, the announcement arrived almost gently. France was entering the war. The sound barely carried across the room, yet it sliced through Vianne's heart like cold metal. Antoine was called to fight within days. Their last morning together, he pressed his forehead to hers and whispered, "Be brave for us." She tried to memorize the shape of his smile, knowing the world was about to reshape them both. In Paris, Isabel slammed the doors of yet another boarding school behind her. She was 17, spirited and allergic to silence. France had been unkind to girls who spoke their minds, and Isabel's tongue was a blade she never learned to sheath. She carried her anger like a shield, anger at a father who barely looked at her, at teachers who dismissed her, at a country falling apart. When she read about the invasion of Poland, something inside her shifted. She felt the tremor of danger, yes, but also the echo of purpose. If war was coming, she would not sit in the shadows waiting for it to pass over her. Their father, Julien, received her with tired eyes and a cigarette burning low between his fingers. He sent her away again, this time to Carriveau, to stay with Vianne, as if the countryside could quiet the fire inside her. And so the sisters would meet again, not in celebration, but in the early tremors of a world unraveling. Neither of them knew that the storm was only beginning, and soon it would demand more from them than they ever imagined. The road to Carriveau stretched endlessly beneath Isabel's aching feet. Around her, hundreds of frightened people moved like a single wounded creature, parents pushing carts, children clutching dolls, old men carrying memories heavier than their bags. The sky was thick with smoke from distant bombings, and the earth trembled now and then as if the war was breathing closer. Isabel, stubborn even in exhaustion, refused to appear afraid. She helped a crying mother lift her child, shared a crust of bread with an elderly woman, and kept moving with a speed fueled more by anger than strength. The Germans were marching across France, swallowing towns whole, yet she still believed France could rise again. Somewhere along the journey, she met Gael, a young man with sharp eyes and a voice filled with conviction. He whispered of resistance, of fighting back, of not letting fear shape the future. His words lit something in her, something dangerous, something hopeful. For a moment, it felt like destiny was walking beside her. But destiny can be fragile. The next morning, she woke to find Gael gone, leaving behind only a note asking her to stay safe. Isabel crushed it in her fist. Safety was not what she wanted. Purpose was. When she finally reached Carriveau, Vianne opened the door with trembling hands. Relief washed over her face, but worry shadowed it quickly. Isabel brought with her a storm of defiance Vianne didn't know how to shelter. Their reunion was fragile. Vianne moved quietly, trying not to disturb the thin layer of calm she desperately protected for Sophie. Isabel, unable to sit still, questioned everything: why the villagers were so passive, why Vienne obeyed the ration rules, why everyone spoke as if France had already lost. Yet beneath their differences, they shared the same fear, the fear of the unknown footsteps approaching France's front door. Only days passed before those footsteps arrived. A convoy of German trucks rolled into Caravo like a dark river, engines rumbling, boots crushing the dust. People peered from windows, hearts thudding like trapped birds. Soldiers hung banners, set rules, and demanded obedience in clipped, cold French. Then came the order that shattered Vienne's last piece of normal. A German officer would be billeted in her home. When Captain Beck stepped into her doorway, Vienne felt her breath leave her body. He removed his hat politely, as if visiting for tea rather than bringing war into her living room. Isabel moved behind Vienne, jaw tight, eyes burning with the promise of rebellion. Beck smiled politely. Vienne's hands shook. Isabel's fire ignited. And war, once a distant echo, suddenly lived in their house. War, when it enters a home, does not knock softly. It takes the empty chair at the dinner table, steals the warmth from the fire, and fills the silence with the weight of fear. For Vienne, Captain Beck was the embodiment of that intrusion. Polite words, iron boots, and a uniform that changed the air in every room he entered. He tried, in his strange way, to make himself less threatening. He complimented Vienne's garden. He offered extra rations once. He even pretended not to notice Isabel's glare burning holes into him. But kindness from an occupying soldier was a trick the heart could not afford to fall for. Every time Beck sat in Antoine's chair, Vienne felt the world tilt further off its axis. Isabel, meanwhile, refused to sit still. She moved through the house like a storm, closing doors sharply, whispering sharp remarks, pacing at windows. She could not understand how Vienne managed to breathe, let alone host the enemy under her roof. To Isabel, passivity looked like surrender, and surrender tasted like ash. One evening, when Beck announced that all radios in the village must be turned in, Vienne simply nodded. Isabel, however, stood up so suddenly her chair scraped the floor. "Why should we listen to them?" she demanded. "This is our home, our country." Beck paused, meeting her eyes. There was no anger in his face, only calculation. Isabel felt exposed under his gaze, like he was memorizing her for later. After he left the room, Isabel turned on Vienne. "You do nothing," she said. "You let them walk all over us. And if I fight, who protects Sophie? Who keeps us alive?" Isabel didn't answer. She didn't know how to fight for freedom without risking everything. She only knew she couldn't live with inaction. That night, she slipped out into the cold, following whispers she had heard in the village, whispers of a man who knew how to reach the resistance. She found him behind the bakery, passing folded notes to a network of quiet villagers. His hands were steady, his voice low. When Isabel approached, he steadied her for a long moment. "You're too young," he murmured. "Too young not to care," she replied. Something in her fire softened him. He told her small things at first, what news was hidden, which routes were used by downed pilots desperate to escape. But he warned her, "This path is narrow. Once you step onto it, you cannot return." Isabel didn't flinch. She wanted purpose more than safety, and war had a way of granting both and neither. Back at home, Vienne sat awake long past midnight, staring at the doorway, waiting for Isabel to return, both sisters haunted by different fears, held together by fragile love. Outside, the night carried an unfamiliar rhythm, the soft beginning of a rebellion taking shape. And Isabel, breathless with newfound purpose, took her first step toward becoming someone the world would one day whisper about. The nights in Caravaggio grew darker as the occupation tightened its grip. Street lamps flickered out early, shutters stayed closed, and people walked with their heads bent low, afraid that even the moonlight might betray them. But for Isabel, night had become her ally, its shadows her sanctuary. Her first assignment came quietly. A folded slip of paper passed from the baker's flour-covered hand to hers with the subtlety of a prayer. Inside was a single instruction: guide the pilot. A British flyer had been shot down near the river, hiding in an abandoned barn with nothing but a fractured ankle and a desperate hope that someone would help him cross the border before the Germans found him. Isabel's handler warned her it was too dangerous, that she was too inexperienced, too impulsive. But Isabel only smiled faintly, as if she'd been waiting her whole life for this moment to test the strength of her own courage. When she reached the barn, she found the pilot slumped against the wall, pale and trembling. "You're just a girl," he whispered, startled. "And you're just a man," she replied softly, wrapping his arm around her shoulders. "Let's save each other." The journey through the night felt endless. Every twig snapping beneath their feet echoed like a gunshot. Every distant engine hummed like a warning. Isabel kept her head high, the pilot leaning on her, step by heavy step. When German patrol lights swept across the fields, she dragged him into the tall grass, her heart pounding so hard she feared it would betray them. But fear didn't slow her, it sharpened her. By dawn, she had delivered him to the safe farm beyond the village, where the next guide waited. The pilot squeezed her hand with gratitude so fierce it warmed her through the morning chill. "You're braver than most soldiers," he told her. Isabel returned home exhausted, her clothes damp with dew, her spirit burning brighter than it ever had. She had crossed a threshold, she had tasted purpose, and she could not walk back. Meanwhile, Vian lived in a world shrinking by the hour. Rations tightened, curfews shortened, and whispers of arrests seeped into conversations like poison. Her friend Rachel, a Jewish mother with gentle eyes, came to her door trembling. She held a notice ordering her to register with the new authorities. "It's only a formality," Vian said, trying to reassure her, but even she heard the hollowness in her voice. When Vian later saw soldiers painting symbols on Jewish shops in the town square, her stomach twisted. War wasn't just at her table anymore, it was closing around the people she loved. That evening, Isabel stumbled into the house with mud on her skirt and a strange glow in her eyes. Vian studied her, sensing a truth lurking beneath her silence. "Where were you?" Vian asked softly. Isabel hesitated. For the first time since childhood, she wished she could protect her sister from the truth. "Out," she whispered. Vian felt a chill, not from the cold, but from the certainty that life was splintering into something far more dangerous than she had imagined. And outside, a quiet wind swept through the village, carrying with it the first rumors of a mysterious young rebel guiding pilots to safety. By early spring, the whispers had grown louder. There was talk across villages and garrisons of a mysterious guide, someone who spirited Allied pilots through forests, across rivers and over mountains. A ghost, some said, a miracle worker, others insisted. But to Isabel, it was simply the work of a heart refusing to bow. With each mission, she stepped deeper into danger, but also deeper into herself. Fear still lived inside her, but now it had learned to walk behind her, not ahead. She moved through the darkness with a confidence that startled even her allies. The network began calling her the Night Sparrow, a gentle name that would later evolve into something far bolder. "You walk quietly," her handler told her, "but your courage makes noise." Yet courage never traveled alone. Risk walked beside it. One night, as she guided another wounded pilot along a narrow forest path, Isabel heard voices, German patrol, close enough that she could feel their breath in the air. She dragged the pilot into the roots of an old oak and pressed her hand over his mouth as boots thudded only inches away. A flashlight beam sliced the darkness. Isabel held her breath, heart trembling like a trapped bird. Then the beam shifted, footsteps faded, and silence returned like a blessing. The pilot sobbed with relief. Isabel steadied him. "If we're alive," she whispered, "keep moving." The next morning, their escape was complete, but Isabel returned home shaken, not afraid of dying, but of failing. Meanwhile, Caravaggio was changing in ways Vian no longer had words for. German soldiers patrolled the streets with a suffocating arrogance. New posters declared harsher rules. Jewish businesses vanished overnight like chalk washed from a sidewalk. Rachel came to Vian, pale and exhausted, her little son clinging to her skirts. "They took my job," she whispered, "and my ration card." Vian wrapped her arms around her friend, promising she would help, but promises felt flimsy in a world where the rules changed like violent weather. As the weeks passed, Rachel's situation worsened. Vian tried to share food, slipping extra slices of bread into her pockets, stretching soup until it tasted mostly of water. But kindness was no longer simple. It had become a quiet rebellion. One afternoon, Vian witnessed something that cracked her spirit. A German soldier stopped a Jewish man in the street, demanded his papers, then slapped him so hard he fell. No reason, no mercy, just power on display. Vian later sat in her kitchen trembling, realizing something she had denied for months. The war was not passing through their lives, it was swallowing them. That same night, Isabel returned home, exhausted and mud-stained. Vian watched her carefully. Isabel tried to hide the limp in her step, the scratch on her arm, the heaviness in her gaze. "Isabel, you're risking too much," Vian whispered. "I'm doing what needs to be done. Someone has to," Isabel replied. "Someone has to." Vian felt tears gather. "And what if they catch you?" Isabel didn't answer. She didn't have to, because both sisters knew the truth. The world was changing too fast for safety, and the shadows that hunted Isabel were learning her footsteps. Isabel's resistance work intensifies, and her reputation spreads beyond villages into German command circles. She becomes the most successful guide in the escape network, leading dozens of downed Allied pilots through forests, checkpoints, and eventually across the Pyrenees Mountains. Her courage and ability to move unnoticed earn her a new code name whispered in both fear and awe, the Nightingale. The irony is powerful. The Germans believe the Nightingale is a man. This assumption allows Isabel to continue her missions longer, but it also increases the danger. Each crossing is more brutal than the last. Hunger, freezing nights, and exhaustion take their toll. Isabel pushes herself past physical limits, driven by purpose rather than survival. She reunites with Gaetan, now a hardened resistance fighter. Their love deepens under constant threat, shaped by stolen moments and the understanding that any goodbye could be their last. Unlike before, Gaetan now respects Isabel's strength and mission, though he fears losing her. Meanwhile, Vian's life grows darker. Captain Beck is replaced by a far more violent officer, von Richter, who embodies cruelty without restraint. He confiscates food, terrorizes villagers, and asserts power through fear. Vian is repeatedly violated, stripped of safety in her own home. Her silence becomes a survival strategy, but it leaves deep scars. At school, the situation reaches a breaking point when Jewish children are forcibly taken from their classrooms. Vian's closest friend, Rachel, is killed while trying to protect her child. This moment shatters Vian's last belief in passive survival. she takes Rachel's infant daughter into her home and begins hiding Jewish children, forging documents and risking execution daily. Without ever calling herself part of the resistance, Vian becomes one. As Isabel becomes the most hunted resistance figure in France, the Germans close in, and a devastating sacrifice is about to change everything. The German hunt for the Nightingale reaches its peak. After a betrayal within the resistance network, Isabel is arrested by the Gestapo. She is interrogated, beaten, and starved, but she refuses to give names or details. Crucially, the Germans still do not know her true identity. When Isabel's father, Julian, learns of her capture, he makes an unthinkable decision. Haunted by his failures as a parent and desperate to protect his daughter, he confesses to being the Nightingale himself. The Germans accept this false confession and execute him. Isabel is sent to Ravensbrück, a women's concentration camp. There, her fight changes form. No longer able to save others through action, she survives through endurance and compassion, sharing food, offering comfort, and helping weaker prisoners endure the brutality. Disease and starvation slowly destroy her body, but not her spirit. Back in Caraveau, Vian continues hiding children and survives the occupation until liberation. She becomes pregnant from von Richter's assaults, a painful reminder of trauma that will follow her long after the war. When the camps are liberated, Isabel is barely alive. She is reunited with Vian and Gaëtan, but her health is irreparably damaged. The war is over, but survival does not always mean victory. One final goodbye still awaits. Isabel returns home physically broken but emotionally at peace. She and Gaëtan share a final, honest reunion, speaking of love without illusions. Shortly after, Isabel dies, not in battle, but from the long-term damage inflicted by the camp. Vian grieves deeply, finally understanding her sister's courage and the different ways women fought during the war. She raises her children, including the Jewish child she saved, and carries Isabel's story silently for decades. The novel returns to the 1990s framing story, revealing that the elderly woman reflecting on the past is Vian. She attends a ceremony honoring French resistance heroes. Only then does she reveal the truth to her son, that his Aunt Isabel was the legendary Nightingale. The story closes by honoring quiet heroism and loud bravery alike, reminding us that war is survived not only by fighters, but by those who endure, protect, and remember. Some heroes are remembered in history books, others live on only in the people they saved and the stories finally told.